question for you. So when you said, again, I've seen the entire interview, and I've seen a lot of your stuff, because what I like is seeing what the market is saying and why, right? Some people have certain patterns, and your experience is a very interesting one because you went to Yale College, you've lived in Canada, you're now in Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Beijing.
I'm sorry, my apologies. You're in Beijing right now. And so you have a very interesting perspective of these three different worlds, and there's a lot of things to talk about. What analysis or what patterns did you notice for you to say, not the first one that Trump was going to win, because let's set that one aside, but the one that U.S. is going to go to war with Iran and then we're going to lose? What gave you the analysis or something to say, I think that's what's going to happen?
Right. So in school, I teach history. And I try to teach world history, an entirety of human history, stretching from the cave paintings in the United States about 10,000 years ago to today. And while teaching history, I've noticed some patterns emerge in history. And the major pattern is how empires tend to decline. And they decline for a particular reason, which is hubris. So empires believe that they are invincible and that no one can touch them. So they engage in activities that are not very strategic. For example, the Persians invaded the Greek mainland in about 490 BCE with a massive invasion force, and they were destroyed by the Greeks. And then the Athenian Empire, which emerged after the Persian Empire, started to engage in hubris as well. And in 415 BCE, during the Peloponnesian War against Sparta, they launched an ill-advised, silly invasion of Sicily, and they lost the war because of this invasion. And so a pattern emerges where empires in decline, they tend to engage in risky wars that they believe they can win easily, but which forces them to expand valuable resources on a quagmire. So the most recent example, of course, was Vietnam. So it is my belief that if the United States would go to war with Iran, then it would lose this war because the United States would not have the manufacturing capacity, the logistical network in order to sustain a war in the mountainous terrain of Iran. And so the big question was, would Iran go to war? Would the United States go to war with Iran? And if you look at Trump's first presidency, there were clear signs that he was being heavily influenced by Israel. He moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He promoted the Abraham Accords. Mm-hmm. He recognized Israel's control over the Golan Heights. He ordered the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. And so if he had a second term, he would have most certainly gone to war against Iran. So that's how I came to my conclusion.
Got it. That's fair. And by the way, there's a very good book written by Jim Collins where he says, why the mighty fall? Why the mighty fall? And he goes through 5 stages of decline, and it validates what you're saying. Number 1 is hubris, born of success. We're great because we're great and we're untouchable, right? Number 2, an undisciplined pursuit of more. We all fall for this trap when we succeed. Let's go do more, faster, bigger, right? Number 3 is denial of risk and peril, which is we're fine. We have nothing to worry about. Number 4 is grasping for salvation. This is what we need to save, or we need help. And then number 4 is capitulations to irrelevance or death, which is over. I'm a Syrian. Trust me. We lost our empire many, many years ago, and we were very, very powerful. We don't have a country right now. So you have to always stay a little bit paranoid about what could happen. Now, let me go to the tweet of what President Trump posted on Truth Social this morning. The world is reacting to it. A lot of people are not happy. A lot of people are curious. Some people are saying this is good. But I would say a lot of the people are probably on, this is crazy what's about to happen today. J.D. Vance said something this morning that it's probably coming to an end. A whole civilization, President Trump said on Truth Social, a whole civilization will die tonight. Never be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionary, wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world, 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless. the great people of Iran. How do you interpret that tweet?
I think that Trump is trying to go for maximum leverage in negotiation. But the reality is that the Iranians will not back down, and American forces already assembled in the Middle East. So I think that we will see a ground invasion as early as this weekend. And it'll be a multi-vector ground invasion, meaning that right now the Americans are attacking Karg Island, which is where Iran will export 90% of its oil from. And so the Americans intend on seizing Karg Island and strangling the Iranian economy. There will probably be an attack on Qassam Island as well in order to wrestle control of the Strait of Hormuz. There will also be an attack on the Iranian coastline in order to scout out air defenses. So I think that we are approaching a major escalation over the next few days.
So try to decode this, because the average person who reads this, they say, who talks like that? You know, what do you mean a whole civilization will die tonight, never brought back again? But if you're somebody you seem like a pattern recognition type of guy, and you kind of watch how people speak, and we know this is how he speaks, right? He's not the most predictable guy. He's got predictable side, but also unpredictable side. Decode what he's saying here. Is this his last chance of negotiation for there not to happen? Is this his last chance of saying, I hope somebody says, hey, let's go out there and negotiate with them? Because Pakistan tried to bring the peace deal on both sides, and U.S. declined it, and so did Iran. So if you were to decode this a little bit more on where President's mind's at, what would you say?
Well, I would say that Trump has a history of working in reality TV. He thinks in terms of television. He asks himself what will draw attention, what will look good on TV, what will get people very emotional and afraid and anxious. So he spent a lot of time in the World Wrestling entertainment with Vince McMahon. They had a feud, a television feud, and that's really how you speak in the WWE. You are rhetorical, you are bombastic, and you try to instill fear and rage in people. And so what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to huff and puff. It's really flexing. The other issue that's very worrying right now is that Trump has surrounded himself with advisors who are psychopaths, and they're not actually relaying to him good strategic advice. So, for example, what just happened this weekend was that Trump announced the rescue of a downed American pilot. And if you watch the press conference yesterday, he thought it was tremendous success and was very proud of the military for doing the impossible, going deep into enemy lines and rescuing a wounded pilot. And this is a great tribute to the professionalism and self-sacrifice of the American military, especially the special forces. But on Twitter, on X, on social media, what people are saying is that this was actually not necessarily a successful pilot rescue operation. It seems that evidence is emerging that this was a failed seizure, a failed attempt to seize Iran's enriched uranium in the Isfahan power plant. And if that is the case, then that was an extremely risky mission, and it's very consequential because America lost about $300 million worth of planes and equipment in this failed raid. So my concern is that Trump has surrounded himself with advisors who feed his ego. And Trump himself believes that just by flexing, just by taking a very tough negotiating position, he can bully the Iranians into a compromise. So I think that we are in a very precarious situation right now.
What do you think is the worst case that could happen, the best case? Walk me through what, and by the way, just out of curiosity, would you consider yourself like if we're in July of 2024, would you say you were a supporter of Trump, like you wanted to see him win?
I'm pretty politically neutral, but in July 2024, I was very confident Trump would win, and I felt that America needed a change. So if I were American and I had the opportunity to vote in November of 2024, I would have voted for Trump over Biden.
Got it. That's very important. Right. That's very important for the audience to know that, because I don't think you've revealed that, because your criticism is just what you think is going to happen, but you still would have chosen a Trump over a Biden or a Kamala. Now, here's the question that we're everywhere we're talking to others. What's the best case, worst case, okay, on what could happen here?
The best case scenario is that the Americans and Iranians reach a compromise where they agree to share the Strait of Hormuz. So there'll be tolls collected because the Iranians want reparations for all the damage that the Israelis and the Americans caused this past month. But they agree to share it with the Americans, and they agree to collect the tolls in US dollars. And all sanctions are lifted, and peace comes to the Middle East. And there is a possibility. I'm not saying this is impossible, but it is a very low probability, and this would be the best case scenario.
Best case scenario. Give me the worst case scenario.
The worst case scenario is that Trump follows through and bombs all of Iran's power plants. And the reason why this is the worst case scenario is that there are certain individuals who are now trying to protect the power plants with their bodies. So the Iranian government has called on for the young people of Iran to make the ultimate sacrifice and make a human chain around all power plants in Iran. And so the Americans go in, they blow up all the power plants and kill a lot of young people. Well, in this case, the Iranians are obligated now to destroy the entire economy of the GCC. This would include all oil fields. This would include all desalination plants. This would include all data centers. And this would be the absolute worst case scenario.